Start off our literacy lesson today, we're going to look at some more common exception words. We looked at 3 common exception words last week, and we're going to look at 4 this week. The reason why I chose 4 this week rather than 3 is because these two, if you've learned one, you can definitely learn the other one. We've got any and many. All you need to do is add the on the front to change any into many. We've also got the word who, which is a question word, and we've got the word clothes, okay, which has got the O sound, but it's separated with a T and a H, which makes it unusual. So we've got any, many, who, and clothes. I'd like to see if you can have a go at spelling out the words in some sentences, which I'm going to read out to you. So I'm going to cover those words up. I need you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil so you can get ready to write your sentences, and then we'll check together afterwards whether you've spelt those words correctly. Are you ready? So we're going to do 2 sentences. There's 2 of the common exception words in each sentence. Sentence number 1. Have you got any clothes in the living room? Have you got any clothes in the living room? If you need extra time, make sure you pause. Have you got any clothes in the living room? Okay. For the second sentence, we're going to ask a question, which you might ask if you were very, very busy. Who has got too many jobs to do? Who has got too many jobs to do? I feel like that's me sometimes. I'm sure your parents feel like it's them as well. Who has got too many jobs to do? Okay, let's have a go at checking to see if we've spelt those words in those sentences correctly. So I'm going to just make that a bit smaller. Let's have a go at writing the sentences together now. So the first sentence was, have you got any, which is there now, clothes in the living room? And this is a question sentence, so it needs that question mark at the end. Did you get all of those words correct? Well done if you did. We'll look at the second question now. Who has got too many jobs to do? Who has got too many jobs to do? And that's again another question mark because it's asking somebody something. Well done if you got all of those words right. If you made a mistake with any of those common exception words, maybe practice them a couple more times because they are words that don't follow the rules of phonics, so you need to make sure you learn those. Now, in today's activity, we're going to have a go at writing a diary entry about a trip to Mexico. And we're going to do some slow writing together to see if we can write some sentences that would go in a diary entry. So to be successful, we're going to see if we can use the correct punctuation in simple sentences and also in compound and complex sentences. We're going to see if we can use interesting verbs, adjectives, and adverbs to convey meaning. We're going to maybe use similes and alliteration in our work. That's not really the focus today. And we're going to see if we can consider the layout and presentation of our writing. All of the things that we do today will definitely help you with tomorrow when we do our own independent big writing. Now, remember, when you're writing a diary, there are different features that need to be included. For example, you need the date. It needs to begin with Dear Diary. It needs to be written in the first person because it's about you. So you say, I did this, I did that. It needs to be written like a conversation. You're telling your diary so that you remember it in the future. It needs to be written in the past tense because it's about something that's already happened to you. And it might need to include a question for you to consider. And we sometimes call that a rhetorical question because it's a question which you could ask somebody or ask yourself that doesn't need answering. It's just for you to think about, just to consider. So in our slow writing today, we're going to do 4 different sentences. In the first sentence, we're going to practice using commas in a list. The second sentence, we're going to use some conjunction and, but, or. In the third one, we're going to use a conjunction when, if, which, or so. And in the fourth sentence, we're going to use a rhetorical question. So I'm going to have a go at writing a sentence, and then you're going to have a go at seeing if you can do your own. So for the first challenge, it says to use commas in a list sentence. So that's my challenge, to use commas in a list sentence. Let me just move myself out of the way. There we go. I need to make sure that I have got maybe 3 things or 4 things that I'm going to put in my list. So I want to write about what I got up to yesterday. So I need 3 things that I did yesterday that's going to make my list with a comma in it. So I'm going to say, yesterday I visited Copper Canyon, comma, Tulum Beach, and a delicious restaurant. My full stop at the end. So I've got, whoops, I made a mistake there. I've got a comma after Copper Canyon to separate the 3 things in the list: Copper Canyon, Tulum Beach, and a delicious restaurant. I'd like to have a go now, seeing if you can write your own list sentence of maybe 3 or 4 things that you did yesterday on your trip to Mexico. Okay, if you need extra time, remember you can pause the video and restart it when you need to. So we're going to move on to the second sentence now. So I've written our first sentence. What's going on here? Okay, we're going to move on to our second sentence, which is to use one of the conjunctions and, but, or. So I'm going to challenge myself to use but. I might also use and in the same sentence as well. Let's see. So I'm going to say, I couldn't wait to relax on the beach. But, what would be a bad thing about being on the beach? Oh, I know. It was so windy that the sand flew everywhere and I had to leave. So you can see there that I've used the word but as like an opposite thing. So it's couldn't wait to relax on the beach, but something didn't go so well. Sand was flying everywhere and I had to leave. Okay, I've also got and to join an extra thing about me having to leave. Your turn now. I'd like to see if you can use one of the conjunctions and, but, or to write your own sentence about something you've done in Mexico. Remember, again, pause the video if you need extra time. Okay, and we're ready to move on to the third sentence now. So for the third sentence, we need to use one of the conjunctions when, if, which, or so. That's going to help me to write a complex sentence. You could try and begin your sentence with when or if you wanted to. It's a bit more difficult, or maybe it doesn't make sense to start our sentence with which or so, but one of these conjunctions could make a complex sentence. So let's have a go. I'm going to say, we visited an incredible restaurant and I want to describe what it was like. So I'm going to say what it served there. So I'm going to say which served yummy fajitas and sweet chocolate churros. So you can see in my sentence there, I've used the conjunction which to explain a bit more about what the restaurant was like. If I just used serve yummy fajitas and sweet chocolate churros by itself, that wouldn't make sense. So that is a complex sentence that I've written. Your turn. I'd like to have a go at using when, if, which, or so to write your own sentence. Remember to pause if you need time to do that. Okay, I'm moving on to our fourth and final sentence. I'm going to ask a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is a question that you ask that doesn't need an answer. And if I was writing it in a diary, it would be a question I'm going to ask myself. So what could I ask myself about what I did or what I'm going to do? I have an idea. I could start my sentence with, what should I get up to tomorrow? So again, I've asked myself a question. It doesn't need answering. I can just think to myself what I'm going to do tomorrow. But that rhetorical question there is there to see if you can come up with an idea of what you can ask yourself. So again, your turn. I'd like to see if you can come up with your rhetorical question using the correct punctuation. Okay, if you need extra time, make sure you're pausing. Otherwise, I'm going to put my writing back on the screen. And I want to have a look at your writing and see whether you think your writing is as good as or even better than my writing. I'm sure some of you have got some really exciting vocabulary there, and hopefully you followed all of the steps of slow writing to make sure that you've got some great sentences. Now, when you do your independent big writing tomorrow, it's always good to remember these concepts of what to use to make your writing really, really exciting.